Welcome.
Hello. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Welcome. Please, we would love for you guys to, well, we got a couple more people coming. I'll continue to be letting people in.
Okay.
We'd love it for everyone to drop in the chat where you're from and how you heard about this today. So where you're logging in from and how you heard about it today.
Let's get some information, some data. Lovely to see everyone. Okay. Let's see what do we have here? France. Okay. Hi, David. Kathy at the moment in Florida. All right, wonderful. Hi, Kathy. Yes. Elizabeth. Hello, Mexico. Yes, okay. Victor, I know you're from Budapest. Okay, and you got it from a newsletter. Wonderful. Okay.
Awesome.
Some of you we know, some new faces, always good to see. Hi, Neslian. Turkey, yes, absolutely. Okay. For some reason, there's someone who can't join.
It's okay. I think Sean seems to be.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Yeah, that's weird. He's not able to join somehow.
I'll keep my eye on the joiners. Well, if you could keep your eye on the joiners while I go ahead and get us started, Gabriella, and then
Yep, sure. Yep.
then we'll go back to that.
Hi, Shirley. Lovely to see you from Spain. Caroline from Washington. Okay, so we've got very international spread at the moment, which is lovely. Mary will be joining from the US, I presume. Wonderful. Okay, so
it's
nice.
Great. So many people heard about us from our newsletter.
Yep, wonderful. Yes, absolutely.
Awesome newsletter readers. Hi, Kathy. See you, Neslihan, Caroline. Okay, so many. Love. Oh, hi, Mary. Good to see ya. So many folks. Is that Lena? There's a Lena here. Is that Lena from Spain? Or is that a different Lena?
Yep, it seems, yeah. We're good. Okay.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Welcome to this expert talks today. Gabriella and I haven't co-hosted an expert talk in probably well over a year.
Well over a year, I'd say. Yep.
It's been a while, so we're excited to do this today and to just be in community and talk with you guys about what we're all kind of experiencing right now in the language coaching scene and the language teaching industry and how language coaching is impacting and bleeding into the work that we are all doing and how that's driving a rethinking of that work and the roles that we all are carrying as educators and coaches and teachers and trainers and all of the things, and also growth as well, and how we are all growing and focusing on our growth in this particular landscape. So as you guys know, probably, I'm Carrie McKinnon. I'm the co-founder of ILCA. Gabriella Kovac is also the co-founder of ILCA. You can clip forward to the next slide, Gabriella.
Yeah, sure. Yep.
We have been, we founded ILCA, I think around 8 years ago. It's been a while now, right? 8 years, something.
Indeed, a lot of time. Yes.
Yeah. A long time ago. And yes, in that time, we started ILCA with our field program, which is still absolutely going strong. We've got a cohort starting tomorrow. It's not too late to join if anybody wants to get in on that. We have our annual conference in person. This year it's going to be in Malaga, very exciting. And then along the way, we've launched other initiatives. Sorry, not Malaga, Malta.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Malta.
Yeah. Indeed. Thank you. Malaga was last year. Malta.
Where's everybody?
So along the way, we've also developed other initiatives. We still have our field program, which is a great foundational introduction to language coaching. and very highly contextualized for language educators. That's the goal of that program. But we've also got other things like our nature inspired coaching experience, which is amazing. Gabriella's book as well. That's something that's manifested out of this entire project, which is just such a beautiful contribution to language coaching. And yeah, I think that's enough of an intro.
Yeah, I think we're good. Yeah, definitely. So do check everything out. And
yeah.
of course, we're very happy to offer the slides. The slides will be available. At least that's the way I like to do it, so that it's we keep the knowledge spreading as far and wide as we can. The QR codes are there. Our website, obviously, you can always get in touch with us. So we'll just kind of move on and have a look at what we have served for today. And immediately with a question. And
yeah. The question is for you guys, how's it going for you? Right? Please, as we begin to talk, feel free, drop it in the chat. Let us know how you're doing. We know that these are challenging times to be in language education. So please do let us know in there how you guys are feeling. Yeah, yeah, and what's happening in your day-to-day work, or the bigger picture of it, if you'd like to share that as well.
Yeah, either in the chat or I don't know, maybe even unmute for this bit, and then we'll move on a little bit. So what I'm experiencing with a lot of the work engagements that I've had lately and the ones upcoming is that there's sort of like I think of all these, it's the uncertainty which is the strongest. So yes, there's a shift. Yes, people, stakeholders are looking for more value, or looking more strongly at what value you're bringing into the relationships that you're building. There are challenges, yes, but it's the uncertainty of not knowing what's going to happen. So what we have here, David is sharing, I'm wondering if the English language industry as we knew it has disappeared entirely. So it's such a massive shift. It's not even a shift, I'd even say it's a change, a massive change that's happening. And everyone is experiencing it. There are a lot of posts going on LinkedIn and all over social media websites. Cassie is saying uncertainty, taking assignments that are lower pay because of more scarcity of clients, not only language, but cultural work too. Exactly, it's spreading. So it's related. So communication related, language related, soft skills in general, I'd say. I don't know. I mean, Cassie, I know you're in the US. David, you're in France or Spain. I'm sorry.
France.
All right. Okay. So these are overall probably we can say global scale. Price, yes, massive price issues happening, pushing down. So, and that's adding to the uncertainty, right? Any other comments? Anything else that you've experienced lately or are currently experiencing in the chat, or just adding? Okay. We don't see any more, so we can move on perhaps. So what we see is that these challenges are strengthening the uncertainty, and our roles are, I mean, we're elastic and flexible to a point, but how far can you stretch? So you can't actually take on 10 roles, or can you? So that's also a question that we might be thinking about at this point. A good question. We've got a question. What's the real need out there? So what are our stakeholders, our clients actually looking for? Is it what we can offer? Is it what we have been offering? Or do we need to be moving with the times, with, you know, technology that is happening, AI? So some food for thought there. So basically we're going to do a thinking process. Carrie, anything that you'd add, anything that you're seeing?
Yeah, my brain is kind of spinning out in response to this question. And then what David put really, was a good little cherry on top there, because I believe the need is still ever, ever, ever present.
Mm.
But what's happening is what always seems to happen in the language, there's certainly an ESL, but I've seen this now 8 years in the game of language coaching. Uh, so I can't extrapolate to say like every other language, but definitely in our ESL industry and in language education broader, um, it feels like when there is global instability and uncertainty and events, that we feel it like right away in our industry. And many industries run like that, right? Some more so than others. But certainly if you're someone that's working on corporate contracts, for example, right? And then there's like an economic crisis, like we saw that in the housing crisis that happened before that the US kicked off for the rest of the world, like a global financial crisis that happened. And was that 2008, 2009, right? Yeah. Other touch points along the way, in every country I've lived in and worked in the languages industry, whenever there's a massive economic shift or uncertainty or issue that happens, we feel it in languages immediately. Because language training and communication training budgets are normally something that gets cut like first, right? When corporations are trying to like tighten their belt.
Yep.
And then also the trickle down effect of people feeling very, very insecure about their jobs, about their own money, and then not having that extra. So the non-essential nature, I think what we do is pretty essential, but the non-essential nature of it, I think, is something that's putting people under a lot of like pressure right now. And us as educators and coaches and teachers and trainers, we're feeling it. Yeah. So this is why I was kind of like spinning out a bit.
It's there. And then L&D training first budget cut. Yeah, absolutely. And then
I do want to say
got the experience.
what Ilza said is I love that, actually. And I think that's another thing I was actually like spinning out a bit thinking about. So Ilza said, actually doing good work with my niche, small groups and one-to-one, walk and talk in nature and English once a month, all clients in my own country. Absolutely. I think that is something, and I can't speak for other places, but definitely from a US lens, people are more leaning into hyper local communities.
Yep.
Also,
I'm seeing that
like
too.
nature and
Agreed.
art and like self-discovery. Like, I don't know, gardening is like raging out right now, right? Like people, like, so everybody's doing it. And I think because like the stress level is so high for just being a human on earth right now, that people are like turning to these other things. And so Ilza, I think that's amazing if that's working for you. And yeah, I think that's one of the reasons we love our NICE program so much as well, because it gives us that outlet and that contact. And how beautiful and important also to be getting our learners out there in nature as well, as a part of helping them.
Ourselves and them. And Sean is also saying that there's this shift in the focus of re-engaging with our own presentations of ourselves, our CVs and our one pages, and it's something I think that needs a lot of guidance and really rethinking, who am I, what am I doing, what am I offering, what, and we're coming back to David's question, are we offering what our clients actually need? So we're getting one more. You've found that too. Okay, we'll move on, right? Okay, just a bit, but I really love the way that we're co-creating this session together, which is really cool. Okay, so it used to be, at least that's our experience, that somehow the boundaries of the roles that we were in, like let's say 10 years ago, or even maybe 5 years ago, it was somehow much more distinct and clearly drawn. If you said you were a teacher, everybody kind of got that you had your book, you had your CDs, or even earlier you had your cassettes. And, it was that image of the teacher with the whiteboard, the green blackboard, whatever. And that's now like, you're a teacher. Are you online? Are you offline? What type of teacher? Is it more training? Is it only language? So it's kind of these, when you've got painting and you've got a water base and you put drops of paint on it, and it just kind of starts spreading and blurring with each other. And a little bit, maybe it's very visual, but that's what I'm seeing is happening. Carrie, sorry, I just started off, but
no, it's good. Go ahead. Yeah.
So, and that's what I'm seeing now, that there's this sort of this, we can call it flexibility, but I think it's also a strain on the stakeholders, on the learners, because they're not quite clear what they need, whether what is happening in the lessons or the sessions is really what is serving them best. And they might not know the name of the role of the type of person, the type of support they might be needing. And that's also a huge, big issue for language coaching, actually, because language coaching comes in many shapes and sizes. And maybe somebody who is actually training calls themselves a coach, or somebody who is coaching calls themselves a teacher, right? So there's this labeling issue, which is, that's my thing. But I think it's very important to be very clear what we are doing, so the distinctions are important. I don't know if there are any comments on this.
Yeah, I mean, I would say my take on it is kind of that these roles are blurred, combined, and probably forever more they will remain that way. Okay. And that has to do a lot, I think, if you trace it back to like YouTube and the whole influx of like free language learning materials on there suddenly. Whereas before, if you really wanted to learn a language, what were your options? You could get a book and read it on your own. You could go enroll in a language program somewhere, right? So things were much more clearly defined. Or you could work with a tutor, or, a trainer, a private teacher. Those were the options. But once people had access to learning this stuff themselves and for free and different, I mean, so many resources and different variations. Now with the addition of AI coming into the situation where people can actually talk to it and practice their language. And then all the apps that have AI like avatars and coaches in it as well. So then again, we're seeing even more recent and more additional blurring of these lines. But overall, I think it's a good thing, right? These resources like can really help learners more. But the question will lay in like, how can we as professionals still be in the most service to them? Right. And I also firmly believe that those resources are not competition to like human experts and leaders and guides for their language learning journeys. Right. Humans are still always going to want other humans. Right. So it's maybe that sweet spot. I do agree, though, we have to know what we're doing and when we're doing it and why we're doing it. We have to be very conscious about if we are blurring lines, and if we're in a situation where sometimes we're teaching and sometimes we're coaching and sometimes we're training, we have to be clear on those differences. And we have to be clear on when one activity starts and one activity ends and another one begins.
Yeah. And to be able to be very clear within ourselves of making that very conscious, deliberate decision of when we're going to be moving into this direction or that direction, and whether that is really what is what's serving the client's needs. Yeah. Okay. We'll move on. Okay. Kathy has a comment here. I was working with a client whose job was cut. She initially said that she needed to stop classes for cost reasons. As we were talking, she realized the value of these sessions. She changed her mind and we worked out the payment schedule, a good result in the middle of chaos. Yes, so again, it's this mutual understanding of what we are actually doing. So process awareness, maybe, if that makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Elizabeth, hi. Role is going more beyond language into the process aspect. Yeah. Clients can already communicate well, so it's interesting finding out what they need and what they value. Exactly. It's all about understanding. It's all about the learner. So we'll move on because we are going to get to that conversation too. I think we're on the right track, absolutely, with the comments. So thank you for sharing that. And of course, what we have here is what the focus is in language coaching, right? Because it's language in part, it's communication in part. But the foundation of any coaching scenario is going to be creating awareness, understanding, and with that, the motivation to start learning and to start communicating in the target language. And that will enable those shared responsibilities because it's not just me bringing all the input, right? That's the conventional teacher role. It's much more about, what are you bringing into the process? How are you going to be supporting your own, development? And there we move into learner autonomy and agency. We are actually doing something. The learner's doing something for themselves to reach their goals. And that's going to be so that they can actually have some kind of impact with their communication. That's the ultimate goal. That's why we've got the beacon, the lighthouse there, right? Carrie, anything? What
No,
do you
I'm
think
good.
of this? Yeah,
No,
you're good. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, the only thing that came to me on this, looking at this so laid out clearly, is really like, how could we not show up this day and age focusing on these things even in our teaching, right? And it makes me think of how long at ILCA we've been talking about the fact that this is a language coaching falls under the larger subject of coaching and education and how education is changing. And I think when you take into perspective awareness and motivation, the foundational aspects of what coaching is and what language coaching brings to a learner, and it being these elements of awareness and motivation, shared responsibility, learner autonomy and agency, and communication impact, like that all teaching requires this now as well, right? Yep. Which is why language coaching is so relevant still at this time. Yeah,
absolutely. And Mary has a comment. I'm sure we've got a lot of comments here, but what I see here is Mary's comment here that context-specific nuanced communications of the conversation and language specificity is almost secondary to the thought partnership. Absolutely. And it's so much about partnership. It's about how we are, our relational terms, and understanding that we are both in the same boat, but I might help with the oars, but I don't know which direction you want to go. It's a bit like you sit in a taxi and like, okay, the driver will drive you, but you have to say where you want to go. If you don't know where you want to go, the driver's not going to be able to do much to help you. So, right. Okay. So what else do we have? So this is this thing about, learner-led process that we have to understand. And this is true not only for language coaching, but in general, language education. It's completely evolving, changing. And it's much more focusing now on interaction, which is meaningful. So not just practicing a dialogue for the sake of practicing the grammar, it's on its way out, right? It's not something which is going to be of particular use in every situation. I'm not saying it's not necessary, but it's much more about, okay, how is this getting me to my goals in particular? And that leads to the tasks. They need to be somehow defined in the context of the learner's world. And then that's going to lead to engagement. If it's not relevant, it's not going to be motivating. And motivating is such a, it's a bone that has been chewed in so many different ways, yeah, that's kind of what this is about. So we need, and of course, coaching enables us to lead for the learner to lead. Sorry, so we're just kind of walking along, and yeah, the ILCA model, yes, absolutely. Any thoughts from anyone here? How important is this in the process, that the learner is leading? For me, it's from the moment I get a phone call or I get an email, the way I respond, that in itself is going to help the learner to be more empowered and more in control of the full process. Exactly, there we are. So to empower, exactly, all important. Yes. Anyone want to share either in the chat or by unmuting? What is a very specific way of allowing or enabling your learners to lead the processes? Okay, so David says, yeah, I'm here to help you. So not to teach you, but to help you. So that in itself, okay. What's your dream? How can I help you? Exactly. So we're service providers in a way. So this, how can I help you? Yeah, so it's a very, very strong way of supporting our learners, right? Okay. So of course we brought in this idea of what language coaching is for those of you who might not be clear on what it is, and to just revisit it for those of you who are aware of it. And there's the short version, which is the first sentence, and then the rest of it, which is their kind of supportive of the full process. And I think it's important to revisit now and again so that we can connect with it as, I think, as our professions grow, our roles change. It's sort of there as an anchor to understand where we are with it. So it's learner-led. It's about acquisition, learning, obviously, towards the goals for the client, for the learner. And it's based on partnership, and it works on success equally, which I really like, and we share the responsibility. And the ultimate result of the process is for the learner to gain control of their processes, whether it's a general or workplace, corporate, or any kind of environment in which they want to be using the language. So that's kind of the way that we cover what language coaching is. I don't know, Carrie, anything you want to add? How do you see it? I mean, we keep revisiting it now and again, but do you see anything in it that you particularly like? Like, I always love this shared responsibility and the partnership idea in it.
I mean, I love the definition. What I always say with this definition is that, it's a definition, right?
Yeah.
And it's very contextual. Again, I think that's one of the strengths. That's one of the reasons why ILCA exists, is to contextualize coaching concepts into our language education world as it is, right? And so you can go and find so many definitions of what coaching is. And at times I identify and align with so many of those definitions. You know what I mean? Of just coaching generally. And then drilling that down into like, okay, what do I actually do when I'm language coaching? And that this applies, this applies, and this applies. So yeah, I love this definition. I think the one definition worth revisiting, I don't think it's in here. We didn't put it in here today, but I could try to get it and put it in the chat, is our definition of the language coaching approach. Because that's one we've been circling for years. And because that one, you know, if you've got your language teaching to language coaching scale, and we're at a pure language coaching over here, for years we've been working on really trying to encapsulate the definition for what a language coaching approach is, what the blend is. Yeah. So I'll go get that, put it in the chat. We can move on until then.
Yeah, we'll move on then. Okay, thank you. Okay. So what we're looking at is the way that the learner and the work that we do is actively shaping the process. I mean, it's a very fluid sort of thing. It's not linear. It's not, okay, here we are and we're going to get there. And, you know, there's this very clear arc, which would be wonderful and fantastic, but that's not how it works. So I think these three statements sort of sum up the way that we can be thinking about the process. So in teaching, the gravity is definitely more towards the teacher and what the teacher expectations and what the curriculum, the syllabus is, etc. So it's that package. And in coaching, we're moving towards learner agency because the ultimate purpose of any coaching process is for the client to be able to say, I'm good now, I can do this. That's it. So when we become redundant, we have done our work. Whereas in teaching, somehow that's not necessarily, you know, the dynamics are different. Also with the stakeholders, which might mean, you know, HR department or I don't know, the parents of a learner, you know, it can be very in various situations. We need to uphold a continuous dialogue. It's not about, okay, we might meet at the beginning or we discuss what we want. And then at the end, you're going to get the, you know, the end product. The learner now knows everything. You know, that's again, not the dynamics of coaching. And also to be we need to be very much present with a framework that we have. And what that framework encapsulates or includes is going to depend on your knowledgeability, on your background in coaching, also in teaching, and to be able to put together. And this is where this I think what you shared here is very important. So where we are on that scale, how we're going to be adopting the various disciplines and fields within the work that we're doing in the process. Okay, so Carrie, do you want to read it out just in case someone doesn't have access because they're driving or something? I don't know.
So what, the language coaching approach? Yeah. So it's a working definition, right? And what that means for us in our ILCA world is that we've not negotiated every single word of it yet and run it by our board and various experts all over the place like we did with our first definition. However, we have worked on it a lot. And this is where we're at with it right now. Is the language coaching approach is the use and incorporation of language coaching tools into a learning session that is primarily driven by, and I'm emphasizing, right? Primarily driven by language and soft skills curriculum and or organizational goals. Coaching practices are employed to build a relationship of shared learning responsibility between the learner and the instructor. And that's important, especially if you contrast it with the previous definition, right? Because, and I think the real, it's like, okay, yeah, duh, that's it, right? It seems very basic, but if you look at what we put in there, primarily driven by curriculum or other organizational goals.
Exactly.
As opposed to being primarily driven by what? The learner.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's our definition that we're at right now. And I think that a lot of people do this thing are applying language
Usually
coaching
a
in
blend.
this way.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, I think we didn't think of this dynamic in it, but we've got it here. So yeah, if you want to just save it, or we can send it. We'll put it in the slides afterwards and then send it to you. So we're not losing that. Okay, so what is it that we are actually doing in the sessions? And I think everybody knows this analogy of the iceberg, right? So that we're looking at very often teaching, especially in a classroom setting, right? It's addressing what we see. If the learner is silent and they don't know something, so they explain, they're going to bring in new materials, etc. So that sort of thing. Whereas in coaching, we're definitely going to be uncovering and helping the learner identify what it is below the surface of the water, so to say, and to help them strengthen their awareness of where they are, what they're bringing into the process, and what they want to get out of it, and what they want from each session. So I think the iceberg is very often about awareness raising, so that there's going to be less below the surface and more above the surface. That I think is very important for the learner to understand. Yeah.
I agree with that. And I also think this is in one of the differences of how we see ourselves as teacher versus coach, that the whole point of coaching is to get below the surface, right? And whereas teaching, not necessarily. That's not necessarily how we define the activity of teaching, right? We think of ourselves as teachers as we're transferring knowledge. We are teaching, we are giving them this knowledge, right? As opposed to we are refocusing them inward, right? We are refocusing them on themselves. And so I think that the whole iceberg thing and how it's not to say that teachers don't stumble into the deeper stuff, because we certainly do. I'm a teacher as well, and it happens all the time, right? So it's not to say that but it's a matter of how consciously are we doing this? Is this what this activity is designed to do, actually? Is this why we're in the room?
I put in a chat box question at this point, just so that we make sure nobody's nodding off here. But the question that I'm going to put in here is, what percentage or what ratio are you in the above and the below? So like 30-70 or 20-80. So when you're working with your learners in general, and I know that each situation is going to be different, but in general, what would you say? Like I'd say in the past 1 year, I've been at I'd say 40-60. So it's been 40% coaching and 60% training, because simply that's the way that the contracts that I'd been working with. So anyone else want to volunteer what sort of ratio you've been working in? Basically, it means more teaching training is the above, and the below would be the six.
We just did this poll in our ILCA WhatsApp group. That was
wonderful.
Fun. Okay, remember great. That we did that a couple weeks ago, and that was really cool to see where people are weighing in on it.
All right. Okay. David's saying 70-30, so quite a lot of teaching training, right? Especially at university. David is more confidence building, 90% coaching. Wow. Okay. David is bringing in more of a coach approach, right? Okay. We'd be very happy to hear anyone else. Yeah. So it's all about, again, thinking about where you can bring in more coaching. Do you need to be bringing in more coaching? Like if you're thinking of a university setting, like for you, David, is there any opportunity or need or expectation to have more of an awareness, or more? Is there any opportunity, to be working in with your coaching hat on, So
there is, if I can expand for a second, thank you for the chance to speak. We do have within one of our bachelor programs coaching And the person that was taking that came on well before I did. So I'm relatively new to that program. And so I was told though that the students didn't really go for it but I don't think that the person delivering it had a coach approach and any coach training. And so therefore it probably fell apart. So I was like, well, I'm a coach, how about you let me have a go next time when the need is there? But it's not language coaching, but I am now in a different bachelor program where the students at the end of their internships get a chance to have a coaching. So I'm applying directly the coach approach with the student
Wonderful.
population now to see how it goes. And then maybe in time, it can lend itself towards language coaching as opposed to career coaching or another form of coaching. But
yeah,
it's relatively new. Like they were like, oh, could we give them a coaching at the end of the internship? Yes, why not?
Why not?
Because you get the individualized learner-led performance as you've been talking about tonight. You get them thinking about it, not me telling them what they should do with their lives, for instance.
Sure, yeah. And that's when it becomes very interesting, because it can be a blend of coaching and counseling, right? So again, there's going to be a bit of a blur, or I mean, obviously I'm not saying that it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it can automatically happen, that you're also going to be giving some advice, but also helping to lead them. So it's going to be an interesting mixture, right, of both of them. Yeah. Okay. Sean's saying 60-40. Okay, and then we've got 50-50. Wait, no, who's that? Yeah, ILCA, 50-50. Sometimes maybe 70-30 or anything in between there. So, yeah. So it's still a little bit more on the teaching side, teaching, training, and then the coaching is basically it's going to be complementary. Okay, so moving on. What we see is two ways to approach perhaps the same language or communication outcome, but there are two paths to get to what the client says. I need better English for the situations that I'm using English, Spanish, German, whatever language in. Okay, how do we approach that? We can approach it as a coach. We listen, we ask the learner, the client to reflect. We don't give direct advice, and we support their own decisions, right? Obviously, we also challenge them, and maybe we feel that we have to check whether they are really smart goals, etc. But primarily, it's learner-led. Whereas on the other side, we've got, okay, so the learner, this is what the learner wants. So I'll explain to you how the language works so that you can get there. If you're making mistakes, then I'll correct them. That's how you learn. And I'm going to give you advice on how to do things and what to do, websites, resources, etc. And I've got it all planned for you because I'm the expert. I've done so many of this type of course. I'll get you to your language exam or to get you speaking fluently in no time, etc. And it's decision-making time, right? How you do that with your learners. And what this means for the learner, because some situations, some learners, some learning environments, some goals need more of the teaching training, and some of them need more of the coaching. And this is where your expertise and your experience comes in. You need to make the decision and help the learner understand which one is going to be more supportive for them, right? So what is the focus of language coaching? I mean, primarily it's creating that clarity in the very, very complex scenarios that are happening now because of the disruptions, because of all the shifts and changes that are happening nowadays. So we're looking at a number of various ways to focus on the learning process for the client. We're looking at the cross-cultural aspect. We're looking at building confidence, of amplifying their own unique voice to help them work under pressure, which is, I think, about 99% of the time, right? We want to help them be very relevant, functional, practical in the way that they're communicating, and to help them in situations, the workplace, and also to be very well grounded in the work that we do in real world scenarios. And this is actually also part of what we have endeavored to do in a conference upcoming, which is to work with clarity and complexity. So those are some of the themes that are going to come up. Carrie, anything that you want to add here?
Yeah, just that.
Sure.
When you get into territory like working authentic voice amplification, fluency under pressure, if you're not diving into the individual there, or if you're not facilitating a process in which someone is deeply understanding themselves and growing awareness of how they are communicating and using the language, if you're not doing that, then what you're doing is like almost like gimmicky, like, hey guys, I've got this strategy where this is how we're gonna hack your communication, you're gonna follow me, right? Like the only way to do that through training and teaching is if you're following some kind of strategy, if you will, right?
Methodology.
So yeah, or methodology, or like something that's kind of gimmicky, right? Of like, I've got the best 3-step process for this, right? Because the real, like, authentic voice amplification. So in order to get to someone's voice, let alone their authentic voice, and then help them to understand how they're going to truly amplify that, how they're going to show up in their world, communicating effectively and like themselves, maybe in their L1, you can't do that without that person really having to dig deep and have a very good understanding of what's going on for them in their communication environment, and also where they're at with their language usage and with their communication. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I don't know, we're not seeing any comments. I think everyone's fully immersed in listening to us having our usual conversations. we wanted to have this as kind of like a conversation, and including obviously all of you in here, but I'm having a lot of fun. I love these kind of conversations where we kind of come up with an idea, then we just throw in the extra thoughts that come up. I think it's absolutely important, and it's just, it's a bit like, for me, teaching is here, that's how far it can go, and then training can add some skills, right? Primarily it's skill development, and then it's coaching that's going to really deepen and create a sort of like a holistic bubble for the learner to be able to then, you know, swim around in and understand what's going on, and create their own, you know, language environment in which they feel that they are really authentic and they can, you know, express themselves the way that they want to. So we've been leading up to this point. Carrie said, oh, it's on slide 13. I said, yes, because we've been leading up to this moment. So what is it that is different somehow at this point? And we came up with these statements again. So three things. And I know you said the three thing is it's 3/4, okay? So there's more and more complexity in work, and also in the way that we are communicating with each other from the various channels that we are using. I mean, if you just say, I'll send it to you, then immediately, how are you sending it? Are you going to send it by email? Are you going to send me a text message on the phone, which is now almost obsolete? Or are you going to, you know, there are so many choices now. And they each have their own purpose and their strengths and weaknesses, right? And then you add that into workplace. Should you be sending things in email? Should you be using AI for certain tasks, etc.? And then we come to AI, right? How it's changing access to language, access to the written word, and how you can be, practicing with it, using it for language learning as such. And then, of course, I think one of the biggest changes is beyond these is the client expectations, right? Is that they're not necessarily looking at, I want to improve, I want my English to be better. That's the top of the iceberg, right? If we use that analogy again, that would mean that that's just the surface. But the need deep down is probably far more complex than that. And it's to create impact with the communication that I want to have with the people around me. And it's not necessarily about whether we like it or not. It's not about being better with our present perfect continuous. It's not about getting the prepositions right, using more phrasal verbs. It's about feeling much more myself, even with a relatively limited language output that I might have. And that's, I think, where the impact lies. So that's kind of my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, I put a question in the chat for you guys. Also, please do weigh in here as to what feels different right now for your clients, for the people you're working with. Or maybe not. Is everything business as usual for them? Is it the same it's always been? Are these the same needs that you're seeing as you always have?
Okay, we have, meaningful impact in the course of work. Yeah, exactly. And not just in work. I think, again, 10, 15 years ago, we're going pre-COVID. There were a lot of language courses for, tourist English, for, I don't know, just generally to develop. Things were kind of slower, slacker, even more relaxed with, what kind of outcomes people wanted, learners wanted. And now there's this much more compact, faster, more intense, more kind of sharper focus. And to get things, we don't need all the waffle, right? Kathy is saying, a flux, being not sure, wanting to do better, but is the effort worth it? From the learner side, right? Sorry.
Is that from the learner side, Kathy?
Yeah, definitely from the learner.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on this?
Cost, yeah, is the cost worth it? I think they don't judge the time that we are in our sessions, but the work after our sessions. And then, of course, I'm thinking of one client because she lost her job. So I'm thinking her interview process gives her so much angst. The interview, being able to understand the question or feeling a little bit more comfortable in an interview. Not so if she doesn't understand the question, things like that,
Yeah. And those are not necessarily language. I mean, obviously it's a listening issue, it's a vocabulary issue, but also feeling comfortable to be able to formulate. I'm not quite sure. Can I just check in on this question, please?
Also, it's kind of their go-to feeling is being uncomfortable, for example. They're in a different country, in a different language, and there's a lot of not sure. So it's this go-to that I would like to see them out of that. But being uncomfortable, it seems like that feels permanent to them. And I would like to change. I would like to see that change for them. I think that would make a big difference in their level of confidence when they need to perform in another language.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think being uncomfortable needs to be something that we embrace. It's a very AI word, but in a way we need to feel okay with that. And again, we're coming back to this stretching ourselves, and how far are we willing to go?
Yeah.
Or we take one step or more. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mary, you've got your hand raised. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Hi, everyone. Yes, just to piggyback a little bit off of what Kathy alluded to as far as the time commitment. I feel that there's a bit of dissonance in the time that it takes to commit and go through the coaching process vis-a-vis the instant gratification that we get from so many different places. Because there's, as Gabriella, you said earlier, like there aren't shortcuts in the coaching process, which is not what everyday life is necessarily like with our devices and AI and
yeah. And there's friction. There's a lot of friction there, that we're getting these dopamine hits, right? From scrolling, from, doing things. And at the same time, learning, you've got to slog it. You just got to, it's a process, and you can't just pick your favorite bits and then you'll get the whole package, because you won't. You're just going to get little bits of the package. And so there's a lot of dissonance there, definitely. And learners have to accept, and that's also why we are there, that, there are no shortcuts. I like that. Yeah, absolutely. So quite, yep, sorry.
It's also like, because, as I said in the beginning, right, with the world, it's so uncomfortable right now to be just like a human on this planet. I don't know. That's my perspective, right? I think a lot of us as professionals are feeling the crunch, and therefore a lot of our learners are. Just with the introduction of AI alone, right? You have certain careers that were always looked at as like the stable ones. Nothing's ever there, there's always going to be a great financial pathway in that, blah, 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 that are now completely looking at being totally replaced and obsolete, right? Something we wouldn't even 5 years ago have imagined. Okay. And so it's just getting harder and harder to be a professional and to like navigate life. And again, coaching is something that addresses these things. And like, for example, what a great example of it is what Elizabeth wrote in the chat, that there's plenty of tools out there, but that clients appreciate support with the learning process as well, right? And this is what you're talking about with the time, with the overwhelm. How much is it worth it, right? Well, it's really worth it if you've got a coach who continually is redirecting you back to your understanding of self, is redirecting you back to like being able to sit with uncertainty, to navigate it, to navigate uncertainty, to figure out a learning pathway that empower you, essentially, or the work that you do together is empowering you as a learner to also navigate a learning process and set goals for yourself and allow yourself to show up differently as you try to address those goals and reach those goals as well. Right. And so coaching, again, is it's a skill set that can address every different part of like the human experience. I do believe that. And it's taking a whole mixed bag of like magic tricks that coaches need to work with clients now to help them continually recenter, rebalance, refocus, and that's changing. That is something that is different because, again, our society is changing. Our world is experiencing a lot of pressure right now, and there's a lot of uncertainty for everyone. So these other skills and abilities to navigate uncertainty do become so important.
Yeah. And Elizabeth is adding, I'm just going to share this very quickly, the time pressure that clients have, and that there's a lot of tools that we can be using, and we do have to use them to support the learning process, to make them more confident in what's happening. So and always appreciate opportunity to slow down and think. Absolutely, yes, 100%. I agree. I agree with that. It's something that I always say to my students, and in the coach training that we do, that very often slowing down will speed things up, which is like a paradox, but that it really does help. It's a little bit like when you've got a very busy day and you go for a walk. We always share our walks with Carrie, like we send each other pictures, a little bit of a behind the scenes. And it really helps us, just to refocus. Going for a 20-minute, 30-minute walk will then speed things up later on, because you've had the time to process. That's why we need sleep. That's when our brain kind of recalibrates all the information it's had during the day, right? So that sort of thing. Okay, moving on.
Yeah, and Gabriella, it's 2 p.m. just so.
Yeah, okay, I'm aware. Yes, okay, so we're going to, okay. So basically what we're seeing here is that the changes are not only obviously related to coaching, but also to ELT and any other in any language education, is that there's this hybrid space of the learner-led processes, the foundations in task, project-based learning, emergent language, those sort of things, also focusing on autonomy and awareness. So this psychological background of being more agentic and looking at communication much more than the language as such. So this is why what we are doing, we feel is pretty important, right? So another thing that we'd add at this point is that it can't be just the learner, it can't be just the coach. We are all in a system, some sort of system, whether it's a workplace or it's a family or it's the environment in which you're using the language. There's always going to be, that systemic approach to what we're doing. And that needs also to be supportive of the changes in language education. And that's going to help us to have sustainable processes, which will lead to well-being for all the people involved in it, directly or indirectly. So that's something that I think is pretty important. So we can't say it enough. Sustainability and well-being is essential, whether it's coaching or teaching or training, whatever. Okay, I'm trying to speed it up. Okay, so and this also leads us to why we are creating a conference for this, and we're very happy now because David is here, one of our plenary speakers. So that's amazing. So what we have here is basically this event is going to be evolving around this shift about the roles and the responsibilities, understanding how to cut through all the noise and all the fact that we might have in this very complex space that we are navigating through the communication that we have and how we are supporting that as language coaches. And where we've teamed up with ELT Council Malta, and we'll be offering a very enjoyable event. We know that some of you have already purchased your tickets, and we're hopeful that that will continue, and we will be seeing quite a lot of you there. What is it that we're going to do? We're going to be looking at how our roles are evolving, how we are creating that clarity. And of course, we're going to be networking a lot, which is the whole point of it, and to see where our work is heading, how we are positioning. So basically, we're going to have this conversation, but in real life, and it's going to be much more, rich and more abundant, especially with the outcomes and relationships that we start having with each other. So hopefully, a lot of joy, professional joy. I don't know if that's a term or not, but that's kind of where we are heading.
I love that. Professional joy.
I mean, yeah.
Yes.
I was doing a teacher training last week in Budapest, and it was professional joy. We just enjoyed ourselves in each other's presence, and we grew together. We learned from each other. It was amazing. One of them even cried, at the end. It was like, oh goodness, it's amazing. So yeah, so hopefully, yeah, that's going to happen. And thank you very much for being here. And of course, again, in 2 days, we have our field program. And we've also got the conference, still early bird. And that's us last year in Malaga. So that's why we mixed it up. So we're really looking forward to seeing you. And I'm going to stop sharing at this point. So yeah, I think we're good. And anything that anyone would like to share or ask or add at this point.
Yeah, we open the floor now. And if anybody has to leave because we are just 6 minutes over time, goodbye and thank you for joining us. And for those of you that don't have to run off and you want to chit chat or bring up something we didn't mention or circle back to something, then we will still be here for the next 10 minutes to do that with you.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. I'd also like if anybody can just turn on your cameras, or we could do a screenshot. I mean, I love that. Yes.
No. All right. You gonna take it, Gabriella, or do you want me to?
I'll take it, but I'd like maybe.
I think this is all.
This is all.
Who's always had there. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm Nestle Han. Hi, Nestle.
Okay. Can you do it? Because mine froze for some reason.
Sure, I can do it. Okay, ready?
Sorry. Yeah.
1, 2, 3, cheese. Done. Great. Thanks everyone for that. Okay, so yeah, we do. We open the floor to you.
I just wanted to say thanks for leading a very intellectually stimulating, thoughtful conversation. It's always, facilitation is no easy job. So I always appreciate you, Carrie, and Gabriella. Thank you.
Thank you for coming, for showing up, Mary. It's good to see you.
You as well.
Yeah. Yes.
Gabrielle, can I ask a question? You mentioned that there's kind of trend to some local communities or becoming more local in learning or language or coaching, or I just wanted to just maybe if you could expand on that. I'm just curious because I think Italy, Spain, I landed in my own country, so I'm doing very well.
Yeah, I'm seeing that because there are more of this sort of pop-up, if you will, of teachers, trainers who had been working online. I'm seeing now that they're sort of communicating on social media towards their local communities. Like a language coach that I know is now posting about the town that they live in, language coaching, teaching, it's this blend. Once a month or once a week, I'm not sure, once a week, let's say, in the park for mums, and they can bring their kids, and I think that's amazing, so that's the kind of thing that I think is happening on a larger scale. Or maybe it's just that the people I see in my network are doing that more, but
no, I agree. I think it's coming off this thing of like, for some years we were all on the internet screaming, all competing against one another for everyone everywhere, right? And that whole thing about word of mouth and our local networks and the people we know, and then how that builds, just as algorithms and like all the platforms and stuff, it keeps changing and keeps getting, like, frankly, nastier and nastier to work with. That word of mouth and local communities and our networks are the places to lean into for momentum, that plus this whole thing, Ilza, which you mentioned, like, a walk and talk, like being out in nature. Like, I'm finding even in my hyperlocal teaching context that, like, the necessity to integrate moments of like breath work, or moments of like somatic experiences, focusing them in on nature, getting people out into nature when we can. And all that is just because I feel like things are really uncomfortable. Now that's here in the United States, things are uncomfortable. And for certain population, things are much more uncomfortable for certain people than for others, right? And so in particular, in my line of work, working with immigrants and refugees and asylum seekers in the United States, that's a pretty uncomfortable population right now, you know? And so I'm being challenged even to show up even more. And I'm gonna say lean in a bit more into, I guess, what would used to previously be considered like out there, if you will, is not as out there anymore because people's stress levels are what is really out there right now, right? With heightened stress experiences, that people are more open to like knowing that they need to lean in more a bit to the arts and to movement, and to nature and that kind of thing to really. And I think also what Gabriella mentioned earlier with like the dopamine level. Did you mention that, Gabriella? Yeah, the dopamine levels, right? And our need to like rebalance those also and get off the screens and get out in nature.
Yep.
So like all those things together.
I totally agree, because I kind of Zoom, and now I have like 2 or 3 groups in presence. And it's like, and they have women driving 50, 60 kilometers, like because people are starving from real human connection.
Yes.
Of course, I have online clients too, but we are just, we are starving for real human connection.
Absolutely.
Really like eternal values. And I live in a country which has a border with Russia, it's a never ending joy, and excuse me, sarcasm,
Yeah.
And so I totally only agree, because I have clients online, and then I have these monthly events, and some say, why don't you make them more often? And I don't know, maybe I just have had only 2, but it's totally about local communities. My niche is women in 40s, 50s, 60s. It's my generation, and I kind of and they, oh yes, and you're talking exactly what I need. It's like,
yes.
It's all about communication, opening up. It's really all about communication and coaching, communication, all this combination. If I have more clients, beginners level, of course, it's more teaching, but more up the line they go, it's absolutely, coaching. They just tell me what they want and how they do, and it's,
And also connection.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Like
number one.
Yeah, community, like you said. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We call it like therapy groups already. We're joking,
Yeah. Well, it bleeds into it again, but knowing the boundaries, but still,
of course, boundaries, structure. But
I would say, I'd say it's a therapeutic in nature, but not as as therapy. So, but the magic happens, in somewhere in the air there, and just one more thing. David is saying that same thing in facilitation work. So I think everywhere now, we've just had it up to here with, let's have a Zoom meeting. No. Even though we are on Zoom now, because we can't, we're in so many, we're on, I don't know, 3 different continents at the moment, I think. So
yeah. And there's beauty in that too, right? I think there's a lot of beauty in being able to connect like this amongst, so many international people, and there's still definitely a place for that, but when you can, and when you can take it local, and when you can take it off screen, I think it's a type of balm right now. It's a type of medicine, if you will.
Yeah,
so you just
so there's a lot of healing that we need to do, and we can only apply the balm locally.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anyone
else? Any other comments? Elizabeth? You're unmuted. That's why I thought.
Oh. I don't
anything you'd add?
You're fine.
I don't even see the mute button.
No, it's totally fine.
I don't even see the mute button. So sorry.
No, it's totally fine. I just thought maybe you wanted to add something.
You were saying, I don't know if you can hear me now, but when you mentioned therapy, that's kind of the coaching part, isn't it? You know, we don't really think that we're therapists, but we end up being like therapists and helping people. I also have a client that lost her job, and so this afternoon I have to deal with that too. And the same example that was just mentioned in the chat earlier, you know, like coming with a direction, which is almost like therapy related to language, and what is she going to do? So thank you all very, very much. You know, misery loves company. It's a very tricky time to be a coach or even a teacher, or maybe both are traumatic at this point. Because I've noticed just in the last couple of months, you know, things are just so unsettled, and what direction to take. But the human being part, you know, the human existence part, or what you want to call the local part, is essential, because, you know, we need each other, and we need to be not with just machines or robots. And I think everybody feels that. The question would be, you know, like, how much do you want to pay for it, and how much time do you want to put into it, and how much value do you give to that human existence part? So, you know, you know, like, again, misery loves company. You know, it's always good to be around other people who are sort of in the same boat here with these kinds of questions that are happening at this point in our lives, in our world. Thank you all very much. It's definitely a pleasure to be with you.
Absolutely. Thank you
And
very much.
thank you to Esteban for sending out this email this morning, because I'd completely forgot about this session. So thank you to him, right?
The
For the
reminder,
reminder.
right? Yep, absolutely. The reminder. So so thank you everyone for being here, for being humanly here, even though we are online, but to be very, very present, you know, and yeah, I'm just putting that there too. So thank you everyone for your time.
And we do have a community that you guys can readily engage with. We have our ILCA WhatsApp chat. I don't know if you guys are on WhatsApp, but that's a way to be in conversation with us regularly as like us collectively. A lot of the people that were here today as well. So yeah, please do. And I do think community is the name of the game right now, for sure. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.